Hi everyone, Petrik here. In today's video, I will be talking about top 5 web novel fantasy series that I want to read. Now, there are so many web novels out there, probably as much as novels, fantasy novels and sci-fi novels. But although I do read a lot of manga, a lot of manhwa, and a lot of fantasy novels, fantasy and sci-fi novels, I must admit that I haven't read a lot of web novels. In fact, I have actually read only one web novel in my lifetime, and that's only the recently finished Mother of Learning by Nobody 103 or Domagoj Kurmaj. And that's also the reason why I made this video. If you are someone who's familiar in reading web novels, do tell me what you think about these top 5 web novels that I want to read, and feel free to give me more suggestions on the best fantasy web novels that you think I should read. Now, do note that these web novels, they are insanely huge. I mean, they are massive. One of them is more than 11 million words long, and you will know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about a word count that has exceeded 10 million words long. If you are someone who reads a lot of self-published fantasy books or even web novels, but more on that later. So probably I will, considering my busy schedule, I will probably read one web novel per year. Probably at most 2. I mean, I tried to read 2 web novels this year, but it seems like I won't be able to make it because, yeah, the first one that I finally managed to finish, it was Mother of Learning, and because of how impressed and in love I was with the series, I decided to make this video. And of course, I have decided to tackle more web novel fantasy series because they are amazing as well. And I will just start immediately with the list here. The first one, of course, is Zenith of Sorcery. And Zenith of Sorcery is the newest web novel series by Nobody 103 or Domagoj Kurmaj. Yes, this is the newest web novel by the author behind Mother of Learning series. Considering how much I enjoyed reading Mother of Learning, there is absolutely no doubt that I will be reading Zenith of Sorcery when probably more chapters are out. Currently, there are 4 chapters, I think. And if you have read Zenith of Sorcery, do let me know what you think about it. But for those of you who don't know, I think this one takes place in a different world to the Mother of Learning series. And I think this will be more epic fantasy compared to time loop fantasy series like Mother of Learning. And this is pretty much the premise of Zenith of Sorcery. After years of exile, Marcus is coming back home, a powerful mage with a few equals. Marcus lives in a world full of monsters and powerful adepts, many of which have bad histories with him. But he has not come back to pursue vengeance or start a fight. All Marcus wants to do is reconnect with old friends, build himself a house, and maybe train a successor or 2. Alas, the world did not stop just because Marcus went into exile, and not everyone is content to let go of old grievance. Strange things are happening in the world at large too, hinting at a looming disaster of unknown nature. Still, well, there is a will, there is a way. If nothing else, Marcus has a lot of magical power to throw at problems. Zenith of Sorcery is set in its own original setting and is not related to Mother of Learning, beyond being written by the same person, of course. This is a more classical fantasy story than my previous one, with a lower level of technology and stuff like elves and dwarfs, but it has a lot of world building effort put into it and its own complex magical system. The story has significant Xianxia influences, but isn't meant to be a Xianxia story. So that's pretty much the premise and what the author said regarding Zenith of Sorcery. But if you have read the few chapters available online right now, then please tell me what do you think about it. And also, before I forget, every one of these titles I'm going to mention, all of them can be read for free on their respective website. For Mother of Learning, well, you can read it either on Royal Road or buy the physical edition from Amazon and Kickstarter. The hardcover and the paperback editions of Mother of Learning are published by Raidmark Creative. And for Zenith of Sorcery, you too can read it for free on Royal Road website. And the next series that I want to tackle, if you have been following my channel since the end of last year, then you will know the next web novel that I will mention, and it is Worm by John McCrae or Wildbow. And I did mention, right, that these series are huge. Well, for Mother of Learning, if I'm not mistaken, the entire series is about 800,000 or 900,000 words long. Well, this is why Worm I probably will not get to Worm this year, because Worm, the entire series, is 1.7 million words long. So that's twice longer than Mother of Learning. And that's only for Worm, because if I'm not mistaken, there is a sequel series to Worm titled Worth, I think. I think that's the title of the sequel, but again, many have mentioned that Worth is not worth it. I don't know whether that's true or not. Again, I haven't started reading Worm yet, but Worm is a dark superhero story, and many have mentioned just how amazing the series is. This has been on my radar ever since before I started my YouTube channel. Ever since I always post reviews on Goodreads, Twitter, and also on my blog, Novel Notions. And I already know about Worm for quite a while now, but still, I haven't read it to this day. And it was my original plan to read Worm this year. But again, considering that the entire series is as large as the word count in the 5 main novels by George R. Martin in A Song of Ice and Fire combined. So I do not think I can read this one within this year, unfortunately. So I think Worm, if all goes according to plan, I will read this one next year. But if you have read this one, I assume that many of you read it, because Mother of Learning and Worm are some of the most popular fantasy web novels out there. Then if you have read this one, do let me know what you think about it. But if this is the first time you heard about this series, well, this is the premise of the web novels. An introverted teenage girl with an unconventional superpower. Taylor goes out in costume to find escape from a deeply unhappy and frustrated civilian life. Her first attempt at taking down a supervillain sees her mistaken for one, thrusting her into the midst of the local Cape scene's politics, unwritten rules, and ambiguous morals. As she risks lives and limb, Taylor faces the dilemma of having to do the wrong things for the right reasons. That's really the small premise of Worm, and I am 100% confident that the entire series is so much more complex and deep compared to this simple premise. So for the previous 2 titles I just mentioned, both of them are actually web novels published originally in English language, but I'm going to mention one here that is published originally in Chinese, but it has been fan translated. And this one is Lord of the Mysteries by Cuttlefish That Loves Diving. I have no idea why the author's name is like that, but it is. But here's the thing, out of all the web novels that have been recommended by many readers, whether it's on Twitter or on my YouTube channel, Lord of the Mysteries is the one that popped up quite often. I don't really know what to make of this one, but the premise sounds incredibly awesome. The entire series though, for the Lord of the Mysteries Volume 1, because I heard the sequel just came out recently, but the entire Volume 1 is about 2.7 million words long. So that's about 3 times the word count of Mother of Learning by Nobody 103, more than 3 times the size. As I said, these web novel series, they are insanely huge, and the next 2 that I'm going to mention, they are even bigger. But for now, for Lord of the Mysteries, what I'm worried about here is that I think there is no official translation. There is only fan translation. Many have said that the fan translation, the quality is incredible. But I also want to make sure, if you have read Lord of the Mysteries here, do tell me what you think about the fan translation and whether it is worth it reading Lord of the Mysteries with the fan translation. No discrediting the quality of the fan translation here, because I haven't read it, and I know a lot of fan translation that can do even better job compared to, well, official translation from the publishers. Yeah, not gonna lie, that has happened. But again, if you want to know more about Lord of the Mysteries, this is the premise of the series. With the rising tide of steam power and machinery, who can come close to being a beyonder? Shrouded in the fog of history and darkness, who or what is the lurking evil that murmurs into our ears? Waking up to be faced with a string of mysteries, Zhou Mingrui finds himself reincarnated as Klein Moretti in an alternate Victorian-era world where he sees a world filled with machinery, cannons, dreadnoughts, airships, different machines, as well as potions, divination, hexes, tarot cards, sealed artifacts. The light continues to shine, but mystery has never gone far. Follow Klein as he finds himself entangled with the churches of the world, both orthodox and unorthodox, while he slowly develops newfound powers thanks to the Beyonder potions. Like the corresponding tarot card, the Fool, which is number 0, a number of unlimited potential, this is the Legend of the Fool. So I assume this one will be a steampunk epic fantasy, and that's pretty much all I know about it. Many have messaged me saying that it is insanely epic, and I think this one has certainly caught my interest. So I will read Lord of the Mysteries one day. Again, not sure whether this will happen in 2024 or maybe even 2025. And then the next priority web novels that I want to tackle eventually is something even bigger than the first volume of Lord of the Mysteries, and this one is about 3.06 million words long, a practical guide to evil by ErraticErrata. I heard that this one started out very simple. The story started out as something incredibly simple and sometimes even YA-ish, but again, it turned into something insanely epic and memorable. Quite a few of my friends on Goodreads have actually read the entire series, and they all mention this is one of the best stories that they have ever read. And if I'm not mistaken, A Practical Guide to Evil by ErraticErrata is more rooted in the epic fantasy subgenre, which is a huge plus for me. Once again though, this is a huge commitment. I mean, 3 million words long is almost as big as the entire 10 books in Malazan, Book of the Fallen combined. But this is the premise of A Practical Guide to Evil. A Practical Guide to Evil is a fantasy series about a young girl named Catherine Foundling making her way through the world, though in a departure from the norm, not on the side of the heroes. Is there such a thing as doing bad things for good reasons, or is she just rationalizing her desire for control? Good and evil are tricky concepts, and the more power you get, the blurrier the lines between them become. So that's the premise of A Practical Guide to Evil, and again, I'm 100% confident this is another one of those cases where the premise is just way too simple to capture the epicness and the complexity of the entire series. Well, to be fair, it is hard to write a captivating premise or blurb without giving any spoilers. So again, this is why if you are someone who reads a lot of web novels, a lot of fantasy web novels, let me know what you think about A Practical Guide to Evil by ErraticErrata. And finally, the last web novel series on this list, I think many of you know, I will be mentioning this one. This is The Wandering Inn by Pirateaba. Right now, the entire series is more than 11 million words long. Do you know how big that is? You have to read The Wheel of Time 2 times from the beginning to the end, and you also have to read all the books in A Song of Ice and Fire to reach that word count. It's insane. Yeah, it is one of the largest, probably even the largest series of fantasy web novels out there. I'm not sure whether that's correct or not. I did make a video talking about the largest fantasy series out there, and The Wandering Inn, I put that at my #1 spot. But again, that's another topic here. But in that video, I received so many comments. Not gonna lie, you have to check out that video if you want to read the comments. I received so many comments praising just how amazing The Wandering Inn is. But for me, this one, I think the problem is really simple. It's so big. Yeah, I mean, 11 million words long. That is crazy. And because of that, it feels super intimidating to try reading this series for the first time. Now, I don't know when I will tackle this one. Some have mentioned to me that there is a lot of chapters in The Wandering Inn that felt quite conclusive, so you can just stop whenever you feel like it. Do not feel like you have to finish one volume before you decide to take a break from reading The Wandering Inn. So I think for this incredibly huge web novel series, I think it will all just depends on my reading mood. I don't expect to ever try reading the entire Wandering Inn series in 1 year. It's not possible, and yeah, it's just not possible with how busy my schedule is, and there are still so many other series and books that I want to read as well. So for this one, I think it will be a marathon rather than a sprint. But if you have read The Wandering Inn, of course, do tell me whether this is your favorite series of all time or not, and where would you rank this series on your list of favorite series. And of course, I will close this one with the premise of The Wandering Inn. Lit RPG and Isekai is definitely a part of The Wandering Inn. No idea whether they will still play integral part in the later part of the series or not, but for the beginning, I think it will play a huge part. And many have mentioned that Volume 1 is by far the weakest volume of The Wandering Inn. And even though I haven't read this one, but I'm going to assume that if we readers who haven't started reading the series, we end up enjoying the first volume, the rest of the series will be a huge hit for us. So yeah, that's it. That's the top 5 web novel fantasy series that I want to read as soon as I can. Do let me know though, what do you think about these web novels I just mentioned? Which one do you think I should definitely prioritize? And of course, feel free to give me more suggestions on, well, your favorite fantasy web novels to read. This can be the ones originally published in English language, or even Chinese, Japanese, or Korean. As long as there are great translations for them, I do not mind. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me today. Do let me know what you think about today's video, and as always, thank you so much for watching and thank you for your support. Bye bye. Lastly, I want to say thank you so much once again to all my patrons who keep on supporting me.